another enlightening episode of The Truth About the Plant, the show that takes you on a journey through the world of psychoactive plants and alternative wellness, all while delivering real actionable insights you crave. I'm your host, Christina Dees. This is my equally talented co-host, Dr. Amanda Ryman. And Dr. Ryman, you get to tell everyone why we're here.
Well, thanks, Christina. We are here because it can be so difficult to find good information about cannabis on the internet. You may have a really important question, one that's going to impact your public health and safety or that of someone you love. You Google it to get an answer and you get 100 answers, many of which completely contradict each other. So how do you know the truth? Well, that's where we come in. We are here to deliver you science-backed, evidence-informed, actionable insights in 15 minutes or less so you can get the information you need and get about your day. So think of us as your really cool aunties or your kick-ass granddaughters, the women in your life who will always tell you the truth.
That's right. And you may notice we have a special guest joining us today. You are in for a special treat as we dive into the world of cannabis-infused cocktails with the one and only Jamie Evans, also known as the Herb Somm. With her expertise and flair, she'll be sharing some insights from her new cookbook, Cannabis Times, Cannabis Cocktails, Seasonal Sips, and High Teas for Every Occasion. And there it is. It's beautiful. So get ready to shake, stir, and sip on a delightful fall-inspired drink that will elevate your gatherings and warm your spirits. So grab your glasses and let's toast to a higher way to enjoy libations. Jamie, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. And I'm really looking forward to sharing more about my book, but also how to craft cannabis drinks at home.
Yeah, well, we talk about that a lot.
We do talk about substitutes for alcohol a lot. We talk about cannabis and harm reduction a lot. And as we move into the holidays, there's a lot of folks that are looking to not necessarily overindulge in the alcohol. It's always been a time of year where the drinks are flowing, the champagne is flowing, but not everybody wants to wake up with a hangover the next day. And a lot of folks are looking for healthy alternatives. And, I've known Jamie a really long time and have just always admired how she has this really approachable way of talking about how cannabis and cocktails fit together. And now with more Gen Zs deciding to move past the booze altogether and embrace cannabis, I think it is the perfect time to bring you onto the show to talk about how to make something delicious for your friends and relatives this holiday season.
Yes, perfect. Well, first of all, I'm actually known as the Herb Somm, and I joined the cannabis space back in 2017. So I actually spent over a decade working in the wine industry, doing all sorts of things in the wine industry. I'm a certified sommelier as well. But crossing over to cannabis, I always thought the culinary side to the industry was very interesting, especially looking at the beverage category. And so over the past several years, I've been really focused on cannabis drinks. Whether that's writing books about the topic. I'm actually a cannabis judge. I write for Buddhist and also do a lot of ratings on cannabis beverages as well. So I've had the opportunity to taste many of these products throughout the years. And it's just something that I'm very passionate about. And we can find cannabis beverages, not only commercially made, you can actually make your own cannabis beverages at home, which is one thing that a lot of people might not quite think about. And I think that's what makes this category incredibly exciting because you can really customize that beverage to really how your body, like what your body needs, the ingredients that you like using, and really create customized infusions. So in my latest book, so this is the High Times Cannabis Cocktails book. This is more than just a cocktails book. So this is actually a seasonal book that explores all different types of beverages, whether it's a juice, a shake, a coffee drink. There's non-alcoholic mocktails. There's even some cocktails in there as well. So it really gives you a great idea on how you can integrate cannabis into your daily routine by mixing it into a beverage. So that's what we're kind of exploring today, which I'm really excited about. And I think one thing that before I kind of do my demo, one thing I want to talk about is just all the different methods that we can actually mix cannabis into a beverage. So there's really kind of 4 primary methods when you think about integrating something into your beverage. So first of all, I like to tell people to make your own infusions. So by infusion, I mean by creating a bar pantry of ingredients that you can use to then mix into a drink. So if you're thinking about a cannabis-infused simple syrup, a cannabis-infused bitters, even cannabis infused honey, which I actually made. And we're going to be mixing this into the shake that we're going to make today. So once you create these kind of bar pantry items, you can really use these just like you would in any type of mixology setting. You can use these to mix into every type of beverage that you can think of.
So that's
Uh,
like the carrier. It's like the
yeah,
carrier
exactly.
for your cannabis into your beverage. And it
Exactly.
sounds like, honey and bitters and things you would usually use
Yeah.
to make cocktails, but just cannabis infused.
Yeah, a little bit of enhancement.
Yeah.
And then all the infusions that I use, it's either fat-based or alcohol-based, and you're kind of extracting the cannabinoids that way. And this is really making it so you have that kind of that perfect integration into your drink, so it's not separating apart. And so there are times when we're in a hurry and maybe you just want to use like your favorite oil tincture. I have one here that I do like to use sometimes if I'm in a rush. But the thing is, if you're using like oil types of products, it will separate out from your other liquid ingredients. So this is why I really recommend creating your own types of infusions. But if you are using oils, there's different methods that you can use. One method that we're going to go through today is actually blending your drink. So no matter what type of cannabis product that you're mixing into a beverage, using a blender, that's really going to emulsify all of the ingredients together. So it really makes that drink perfectly mixed together, obviously, because it's blending. Another method that you can use is using a shaker tin. So basically you can add your cannabis ingredient, like cannabis infused simple syrup, for instance, into your cocktail, shake it up. And then, of course, that's mixing the cannabis ingredients into your drink quite effortlessly. And then the next method that I explore throughout my book, you can actually muddle cannabis products into your drink as well. So you're like a mojito, for instance.
Yeah.
So if you're using just like an oil type product, you can actually add a few drops to the bottom of your glass, throw some mint in the bottom, add some lime juice, and kind of muddle those ingredients together, and then make your drink. So the goal is to really emulsify all of those ingredients.
Have you ever muddled cannabis leaves?
You know what? I have.
What does it do to the flavor? Like, does it really bring that cannabis flavor, or is it more just like an herbaceous note?
It definitely brings like a terpene profile out. And I've
Mm.
actually mixed like fresh cannabis leaves with mint. And I think that's actually a really cool balance if you are making fresh cocktails at home. So if you are doing like mojitos and you do have like access to cannabis leaves, I always recommend like throwing a few in. It just kind of adds that not only like a fun like type of garnish, but it adds more of an enhanced kind of like a terpene experience.
Oh,
And then
delicious.
also with leaves, I love juicing fresh cannabis leaves. So if you do grow cannabis at home, this is one of the best resources that you can have for like basically having like THCA, which is the non-intoxicating form of THC. And you can actually juice your leaves and really get kind of that really strong green juice. And I actually do have a green juice recipe in here that has instructions on how to do
Right.
so. And so there's just many things that you can use. Also in the book, if you think about kind of infusing salts and also sugars, something that's fun to do with beverages is actually doing a cannabis infused salt rim on your glass and then using that as kind of like your infusion. And it's always like a very low dose when you're doing kind of like the salts, but there's a very easy method of creating this.
Mm.
So really it's like thinking about what can I infuse and then how can I make this like mix it into the drink? And then just thinking about the types of ingredients you want to use. Also, depending on what type of cannabis that you're using in the book, I really recommend using decarboxylated flour to create your infusions. You could also use concentrates as well. But there's just many methods that you can use. But really, if you're using flour, you can pick what type of flour that you want to use and also try to pair the terpene profile with the ingredients that are in your drink. So you're really kind of elevating and thinking about like what pairs well with those flavors.
Yeah, I was going to say when you use the fresh cannabis flower, you can really think about like this is a very earthy
Yeah.
terpene profile. So, like, what kind of drink would that go best into versus something that's fruity
Yeah.
versus something that's more floral. So, you're right. It really just adds this whole layer to play
Yeah.
around with to create something really fabulous in the final result. Like, I can imagine something earthy would probably pair really well with the pumpkin.
Yes,
because it's like
exactly.
that autumnal, kind
Hmm.
of, being outside in the crisp air kind of feeling. And in the
Yes, any type of
spring,
fall
something
ingredient.
floral with like, an elderflower liqueur or something like that. Okay, now I'm wanting to go make these. Okay, and I'm doing sober October right now, so I still got 2 more days before I can even have alcohol.
Well,
All
there you
right,
go.
continue.
Yeah, and so I think no matter what you're doing, like in all the work that I've done too, I've always tried to focus on like terpene education and teaching people how to pair certain strains with different ingredients. I think that's just a really great way to approach like the culinary side of cannabis, of course, but also mixing with drinks. And then one other thing I'll add before I go into the demo is there, if you don't want to decarboxylate your flower, you can actually do a fresh flower tincture. And so this is going to make a very expressive, kind of like terpene forward type of tincture. And usually you're using like alcohol to do the extraction. But when you're creating a tincture like this, you just add a few drops to your cocktail, and that's really going to brighten the aromas. It's going to add those bright terpene notes, and it just really kind of enhances the complexity of any type of drink that you're working with.
But if
So,
you're using non-decarbed flour, it will not be intoxicating, correct? Because it will
correct.
be the
Yes.
acid form. So if you're somebody that
Yep.
wants the effect, and THCA and CBDA also have a lot of
Mhm.
therapeutic benefits. So if you're
Exactly.
somebody that wants the flavor, the
Yeah.
terpene profile, kind of the essence of cannabis, but doesn't want to get intoxicated, I
Right.
think that fresh flower tincture is a great idea because not everyone wants to get high, but people still want to enjoy the benefits of the plant.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's just many different approaches that you can use. And really, I recommend doing what's best for your body. That's like kind of the golden rule in cannabis is listening to what we need and really catering the cannabis experience to yourself. And
Excellent.
so the beverage I'm going to make today, so this is a seasonal cocktail book, and it's actually from the fall chapter. And since Thanksgiving is right around the corner, I thought it would be fun to do a pumpkin pie shake. So this is a really
Mm.
easy recipe that you can make at home. We are going to use the blending method of mixing the cannabis into your drink. And I wanted to do this because sometimes when you're making pumpkin pies at home or you have like just raw pumpkin, I like have 100% pumpkin can right here. You might have some extra left over. So this is a really good way to kind of keep reusing your ingredients.
I love
And
it.
so the first thing that you're going to do, I'm just going to make it into a single serve blender today. And you're going to measure out 1/3 cup of your pumpkin. Just put it right in. There we go. And then what I like to do, just make sure that you're not getting any flavors mixed in with your pumpkin puree. This is just 100% pumpkin because we're going to be adding a lot of different flavors into this. The next thing that I like to add is just 1 cup of frozen banana. So this really kind of gives the shake this really like creaminess and kind of that creaminess that you find in pumpkin pie. So I'm gonna add the banana. They're a little stuck to the bottom of my measuring cup.
Yeah, I always add banana to my smoothies
Oh, I love
because
banana.
that
Yeah.
creaminess for
Yeah.
sure.
And I like using frozen bananas too because it just adds more of a texture versus just a non-frozen banana. But really do what you like best. But frozen banana just kind of makes it thicker and more creamy. Next, we're going to add 6 ounces of the milk of your choice. I actually used an oat milk today, but you can use dairy milk, hemp milk. You can use soy milk, any type of milk that you prefer. We're going to add that in.
I'm a coconut milk gal
Oh,
myself.
coconut milk would be great too. Yeah,
Yeah, it's really
absolutely.
high fat content, so it's
Oh,
got
it
a lot
is.
of
Yeah.
creaminess.
And coconut milk is actually really easy to infuse with cannabis as well because it just
Mm.
really soaks up all of those cannabinoids. So there's a really good little coconut milk recipe in the book too.
Ooh.
Infused coconut milk. Then we're gonna add, this is like a nice like kind of morning drink. So we're gonna add a little scoop of protein powder. And then we're gonna add, so this is the cannabis infused honey that we're gonna add. And so this is a recipe that you can find in my book. And this is something that I made on the stovetop. And so what you want to do when you're making your cannabis infused honey, I actually use some decarboxylated flour, and you're really going to mix the decarboxylated flour with your honey and then a little bit of vegetable glycerin to kind of help set that extraction. And you're going to heat over low heat for about an hour. And I constantly stir when I'm making these on the stovetop just to make sure that you're really getting the best infusion possible. And then with honey too, you just want to make sure that you're not going too hot because that kind of ruins the honey properties. So there's a really good guide in the book on the temperatures to use and really create this really delightful infusion. And then once you get like, this is like 1 cup of honey, of a cannabis infused honey. So you can really mix this into anything. You could take a spoonful, eat it by, like on its own, mix into a shake. You could put it into different cocktails as well. So it's just a really good kind of pantry item to have around. But you're going to have 1 teaspoon of that cannabis infused honey. I'm going to do like a pretty big dollop. There we go.
As you're mixing this, Jamie, one thought that comes to mind, and probably from our viewers too, is like, how do you control the dosage? Do you know approximately like how much or how many milligrams that you're putting in there?
So depending on what flour you're using, always make sure to look at the packaging and then look at how much THC and how much CBD is in the product. And then there's actually a calculation that you can do to best estimate the dosage. There is a calculation in all of my books that I've written. There's the dosage calculation, but always make sure to do this when you're doing at-home infusions because it's never going to be precise. And so you always want to kind of estimate to see kind of like where you're at in terms of the dosage. And then what I like to recommend too is before actually putting it into a drink or like serving it to others, I like to gauge the potency by maybe doing like 1/4 teaspoon and kind of see like what if like your estimate was right or wrong and then kind of work from there. But with the honey, it's pretty low dose. I think in the book, let's look at the dosage with the shake itself. Let's see. So this was, it came out to be, just about like actually like 8 milligrams of THC per drink. So,
Okay.
that's
Start low, go slow is
Yeah.
our big mantra on this show because you can always take
Yes.
more, but you can't take less. And especially if you're going
Exactly.
to like serve it to your family.
Yeah,
I think that's a great idea to like start with a little sample yourself, see
Yeah.
how it hits you, and then adjust accordingly.
Oh, of course. Yeah, absolutely. And that goes if you're making cannabis infused butter, cannabis infused olive oil, basically any type of infusion that you're making at home. Like always be sure to gauge the potency before cooking with it. I've learned the hard way and have made some very potent things in the past. But the last thing I'm going to add is a little bit of Greek yogurt. It's vanilla. And then I think that's everything we need to mix it up. So I've got everything in there. Let's see all the lovely ingredients.
Fan of the magic bullet.
I've got my little, my little setup here. So now I'm going to just blend this up. And then just remember, the more you blend, the more that honey is kind of integrating into the drink. So I like to blend. And then, I mean, shakes are very easy to make. We've all done this at home. What I like to do though, depending if you like whipped cream, and you can see how like fun looks kind of like pumpkin-y color. But I like to top it with a little bit of whipped cream. I actually forgot it, so just imagine me putting the whipped cream on top. And then I like to sprinkle a little bit of that pumpkin pie spice too.
Ooh.
Just to add a little bit more of that pumpkin flavor.
See, as you're describing this, I'm picturing like Sunday brunch, like cozy.
It smells so good.
I'm sure it smells amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm picturing me like cooking Thanksgiving and just needing one of those while I'm cooking to set the vibe.
Yeah. But I think too, it like, because when you taste it, it's actually not very sweet because I want it to be more of like a healthy shake. But it has all of those really nice kind of pumpkin pie notes. So it has like the spices, it has the pumpkin flavor, and also kind of that vanilla that the yogurt brings in. And then also because like I do use the protein powder, I always use vanilla protein powder to add more of that vanilla note, and it adds a little bit to the thickness as well. So it's just a really fun kind of festive drink that you can make. I think your whole family would really love it as well. And you don't have to like spend much time on it. You could just throw everything in your blender. As long as you have your cannabis infused honey ready to go, it's really easy.
I love it. And I think that that's just a drink that, like you said, will appeal to a lot of people. And especially this time of year, it just really evokes kind of the holiday spirit and something that would be great for all of the adults in the family. I know my family, my brother, he's a cannabis reviewer. We all engage in cannabis consumption. So I think, they're all coming here to Washington for Thanksgiving. So
this pumpkin pie shake.
I'm thinking maybe I'm going to make a pumpkin pie shake for everyone, and we'll make a little virgin version for my niece.
Yeah.
And
Oh my gosh, you would love it.
yeah, no, I think that it's just such a fun treat.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's still healthy. And the
Yeah.
cannabis makes it even more healthy because you're getting all of those good cannabinoids in there. So fantastic. Um,
And then one thing too to keep in mind, which you just reminded me of, if you do want to do like any type of like non-infused drinks, you can always substitute for something that's non-infused. So like for this recipe, for instance, you just use non-infused honey. And then all of the drinks that are featured in my book, you could like basically use just simple syrup rather than a cannabis infused simple syrup. You can use just plain bitters, but really be creative and customize that drink that's best for you. So
I love it. It gives a lot of people options
yeah, for
because,
sure.
not everybody wants the same thing, but they want to be able to enjoy, nonetheless. And so I love that you can make something just as delicious, but have it be whatever the individual wants it to be, which is really
Yep.
flexible and great for social occasions.
All
Well,
right.
Jamie, this was fantastic. I mean, this was so easy. I think folks, they go back to like the days of cannabis brownies where it felt like it was so hard to make a good one.
Yeah.
And we've all had so many experiences with like bad tasting brownies or biting into a stem or, just, and then it became like people thought it was just gonna be really complicated to
Hmm.
make your own infused products at home, but it's really not. And I mean, you're not
It's
even
not.
talking about any special equipment other than your nice little magic bullet there.
Yep.
But in terms of making the infusion, like you didn't bust out any kind of expensive equipment or infusion machine. I mean, you're literally standing over
No.
the stove and
Yeah,
mixing honey and cannabis together. And I think that's
that's
important for
exactly
folks to
right.
realize that you don't have to invest a whole bunch of money into being able to make these products in your kitchen. You just need a
It's
little bit of
true.
time and a guide like yours, and anyone can do it.
That's true. And I actually do have all of the infusion devices. I have every single one that's been out on the market probably for the past several years, but I always end up just doing on the stovetop, honestly. I think it creates the best types of infusions. It's really giving you the power to create what you want. And like all you really need is just like, yeah, basic kitchen ingredient or tools that you probably already have at home. So yeah,
I
it's
love
easy,
it.
affordable.
I think it also adds to the intentionality of it. When we make, I mean, anytime you make something from scratch in your kitchen versus just opening a package and sticking it in the microwave or, just ordering food and having it delivered, there's something about that process of homemade that
Yeah.
brings intentionality into your consumption. And we talk a lot about that on this show as well, intentional consumption and people developing a relationship with the cannabis plant. So while you're standing over your stove stirring your honey, you're developing that relationship with the plant and you're not
Right.
leaving it up to some mechanized process. You're doing it. And, there's a reason why our grandmothers used to stand in the kitchen and make things from scratch. And we felt it was made with love. And I'm sure that these drinks feel the same way. So I'm a big, I'm really in favor of taking that time and doing it that way.
Yeah, same here. Well, cheers to that.
Yeah.
All right. And just like that, we've stirred up some serious fun in the world of cannabis cocktails. A huge thanks to you, Jamie, the Herb Somm, for sharing your wisdom and that fabulous fall drink. I was just thinking people could stand out at their next dinner party and make something fancy or simple from your cookbook. So you could do it that way, or it also makes a great Christmas gift. Amanda, think of your brother. So now it's your turn at home. Try one of these fantastic infused concoctions. And we would love for you to share your cocktail creation with us by tagging Personal Plants and the Herb Somm on socials. For more tantalizing tips and tricks in the world of alternative medicine, don't forget to swing by our Vibrant YouTube channel for your dose of herbal magic. Until next time, stay lifted, keep sipping, and remember, life is too short for boring drinks.